everybody. Welcome to the Jerusalem Connection Red Alert Report. I'm your host, Amy Zawi. Today, joining us from Israel, recording and released on the same day, we have Rabbi Shmuel Bowman of Lifeshield. We've had Shmuel on before, and that was a couple years ago when he talked about the shelter initiative, but we have him back to report directly to us on what is life like in Israel on day 4 of Operation Epic Fury, as well as the ongoing work that Lifeshield is doing to continue the efforts to provide security and other measures to have the total wellness of the Israelis preserved as best as possible through this important time in history. Shmuel Bowman, thank you so much for joining us today. We're happy to take your time up, and we don't want to take too much of it because we know you're busy. You're reporting from a shelter at the moment. Yep. Please let us know, how has life unfolded for you since Saturday morning, and then we can get into the details of what's going on the day-to-day basis.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Amy. It's good to be speaking with you and to your audience. Basically, I am speaking from the bomb shelter of our office complex. We've had now, just today, we've had 3 sirens and inbound attacks just in the area that I'm sitting in right now. Don't be surprised if at some point during our interview today, if the siren does go off again and some of my office building colleagues join me in the bomb shelter, and you may also hear some of the explosions because they're quite loud, even from within the bomb shelter. Basically, since Saturday morning, Shabbat morning, this is a time when, this is a time for going to synagogue. It's a time for prayer. And actually, as it happened this past Shabbat, this past Saturday, I actually wound up going to synagogue with my son at the earlier service. It started, I think, at 6:30 a.m. And that was in order to celebrate my son's friend's upcoming wedding, which is tomorrow. Needless to say, it's going to be a much, much, much smaller wedding than was planned. We're going through the service, and as you and some of your audience may know, we read the Torah 3 times a week. We read it on Saturday, and we read it on Monday and Thursday. But Saturday is really the big Torah reading event. And we're progressing through the Torah, starting from the beginning of Genesis and all the way to ending up at the very end of Deuteronomy. And we go through it kind of like in order consecutively throughout the calendar year. This Shabbat, as it happens, this Shabbat, which is the Shabbat preceding Purim, which is today. Actually, it was yesterday, and today is Purim. Today being Wednesday, is Purim in Jerusalem, because they actually observe it the next day. And so it's Purim today. Leading up to Purim on that Shabbat is called Shabbat Parshat Zachor, which means the reading of remembrance. Remembering what? Remembering what Amalek did to the nation of Israel when they were in the wilderness, making their way from slavery in Egypt to freedom in the land of Israel. And of course they attacked the most vulnerable, and they attacked the weak and the elderly and the children and those lingering behind. And it's an important chapter that talks about remembering Amalek and at the same time wiping them out. And as we finished reading, get a load of this, as we finished reading the portion about Amalek, and then there's one other prayer you kind of finish up with, sirens went off. Now, we had been expecting over the last few days possibility of something going on. There's been all sorts of speculation. People like to speculate and think. Nobody really knows anything, of course, but people like to give their opinions. And there did be these opinions that something was going to be happening. And sure enough, we ran into the bomb shelter at the synagogue. And once that was done, we made our way home. And as we did, we began to understand over the course of the day that there had been a preemptive attack against Iran, which was absolutely necessary in order to catch them, in a sense, by surprise, so that they wouldn't fulfill what they were promising and committing and planning to do, which would have been a major attack against Israel and also United States interests. So thus started the war. That's how we jumped into things this past Shabbat. I have to tell you, if we I have to look at things through the lens of the Bible.
Yes.
This is God's hand. Okay, there are no coincidences. I mean, think about it. Okay, you know, here we are reading in the Torah. Okay, the unchanged Torah, the unchanged Bible. We're reading about Amalek, and as far as I'm concerned, the Iranian dictators, okay, the Iranian dictators, not the people, but the leaders, the ayatollahs, okay, they are Amalek. As far as they're concerned, they've been talking about the destruction of Israel for years and years and years, okay, and we don't border Iran. We've never threatened Iran. There's no reason for them except for this deep, ancient hatred. Okay. By the way, we consider their proxies. We consider their satellite armies, such as Hamas, such as Hezbollah, such as the Houthis. I would even go as far as saying the legal team from South Africa. Okay, as far as we're concerned, they're Amalek. They are Amalek. Okay, they hold that spirit of pure hatred against the Jewish people. And today, you want to find the Jewish people? That's in the state of Israel. Anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, it's the exact same thing. Okay, and so they've been doing it. So you can't ignore the fact that we're reading about Amalek on Shabbat, and not the next day, and not even the next hour, but the next minute. Okay, it all comes together, and we're fulfilling the words of God in the Torah that says, "Remember what Amalek did to you, and wipe them out." I think that's pretty cool.
That's amazingly cool, and to your point, it is evident of a continuity in God's word, right, and timing. And what's neat about that is that was the Torah portion, and then we come upon Purim, which commemorates the book of Esther.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and if I remember correctly, Haman was from that Amalek group of people, correct? Wasn't he from that?
Haman, yeah, Haman, or Haman as we say in Hebrew. Haman is what's known as he's the Agagite. In other words, he is from the family of Agag. And who is Agag? Well, look back a few hundred years, yeah, before the Purim story, and you get to King Agag, who is Amalek, okay, and he is trying to destroy, again, the nation of Israel. Very interesting, by the way, that the story, as you talked about the continuity, that's the Torah. The Torah, the Bible is not something that you put in a museum behind glass and like, don't touch it. The Bible should be, the pages of our Bibles should be well worn, okay? My Bible has rips in it, and I put tape on it, and it's got handwritten notes going on in there, okay? And that's what it is. It's a living, breathing document, and it's the story of our lives and our ancestors' lives, and the lives of those who come after us. It's absolutely amazing. And so the Purim story, which is really going to be about Mordechai and Haman being the Amalek, and Mordechai being, in a sense, the top leadership. We can call him king, right, for the Jewish nation in Persia, which is modern day Iran. But dial it back a little bit earlier, like about 400 years earlier, and the ancestor of Haman is is Agag, who is right is the Amalek king. But get a load of this: the ancestor of Mordecai is King Saul.
Oh.
Okay, because let's remember, Mordecai is from the tribe of Benjamin, not Judah. Okay, and we know that King Saul was from the tribe of Benjamin. So isn't that interesting that their direct ancestors
Thing
had
to
this
right.
exactly had this fight 400 years earlier, didn't get resolved,
Hmm.
and here it needs to get resolved in the Purim story. I believe that it's really Queen Esther who actually brings it all to a conclusion. So this is all happening now. Here we are reading. We are in the holiday, in the festival of Purim. It's an incredible, incredible festival. It's amazing, and all this is happening while Israel and Persia, these ancient nations, are dealing with again some unresolved conflict. And today we call it Israel and Iran, but it's really the nation of Israel and the nation of Persia, and it's all coming together. And what's really interesting is the calling. What's the calling? The calling is that anti-Semitism occurs in every generation. That's what it is. There is a deep hatred against the Jewish people that goes from generation to generation. There's all sorts of possibilities and reasons why that exists. Maybe it has to do with the fact that the role of the Jewish people, the role of the Bible, is to bring God's word into the world. And there are people, there are nations where that is simply unacceptable.
Hmm.
Okay, so that in other words, their war, their hatred is really a hatred against God,
Hmm.
and they manifest that against the Jewish nation and all of the people who side with the Jewish nation. Okay, so for your audience, if you've got Christian Zionists who are watching right now, guess what? They hate you too.
That's right. That's
Okay,
right.
welcome to the club. And so our calling is, what is our response? And so Mordecai, take a look. I invite everyone to open up, go get yourself the scroll of Esther, the book of Esther, phenomenal book. It's there in the Bible. Take a look at chapter 4, verse 14. Mordecai, who's the leader, as I mentioned, of the Jewish nation in Persia, and he's either the uncle or the husband, we're not quite sure, of Esther. We don't know exactly. It could be one or the other, both maybe. And he goes to Esther. She's now the queen. And he says, go talk to your husband, the king, Ahasuerus or Xerxes, and let him know that Haman wants to annihilate the Jewish people. He wants to commit a Holocaust on the Jewish people. You need to do something. And her response, first of all, is, well, I'm not really sure about this. It's not according to protocol. I haven't been really invited. He's like, hey, Bubala, Esther, you know, don't worry about it, kid. Right? And he says in Hebrew, Revach v'hatzalal yavom makom acher, which means revelation, which means salvation and redemption will come from another place. About mi yodea, but who knows? If for such a time as this you are placed in the palace of the king. In other words, this is your time. Okay? And bottom line, if you don't step up for this, your name and your descendants will be dust in the history books. You'll be nothing. But go ahead, whatever you decide. She gets it. She gets it. And that's when it all turns around. And she mobilizes the Jewish nation. She gets everybody involved in prayer and fasting. Okay? And they put together a strategy that turns everything. Amy, are we the Mordecai and the Esthers of our generation? Are we hearing the calling to step in and do something? Are we taking action? That's our response. How are we responding? So we see this obviously on a very macro grand level, and I'm not here to talk as a military strategist, although the work that I do does dealing with security projects. But and there's no shortage of information out there. But I'm thinking most importantly, is what are we doing as individuals? What are we doing as families? Do you know what I mean? What is our calling? How are we stepping in as individuals? I'm not picking up my phone and calling the general of the Israeli army. I don't have a hotline to the Secretary of War in the US government. I'm just doing what I can do. Okay. And that's our response right now, in dealing with this conflict. So that's that again, it's absolutely amazing. I, if our, I feel bad for anybody who doesn't see the hand of God in everything going on right now, because they would be absolutely hopeless. And we see this, by the way. I have to tell you, and we were talking about this before we started recording, that we see this on both ends of the I don't know if it's the political spectrum or the values spectrum or whatever that is, but we see the liberal extreme on one side, and we see the right on the right wing on the other side, who hate Israel. They hate Israel, and they're dumping on Israel. They're dumping on, and they're, by the way, and that by extension, they're hating the Jewish people. Okay, and they're hating all the Christian Zionists, and they're hating anybody who believes in what this Israel project is all about. And as far as I'm concerned, they are godless. They may say they have God in their lives. They are godless people because they do not see God's hand and God's role in what's taking place. They're selfish, ignorant, stupid people. Okay? And thank God for those of us, Amy, who understand that God is center in our lives and runs the world.
Well, we know the end of the story, right? But at the same time, we're still called, as you said, to individually do something. And I was thinking about how you were talking about the pages of the Bible, of Torah and the Tanakh. They're alive, they're living, they continue to speak to us, they continue to play out. And there's these lessons, right? You mentioned that Saul and
Agag.
King
Yeah.
Agag, they didn't finish finish the fight, and then the same fight reemerges in the story of Esther, and it's like, okay, are we going to now today the Jewish people aligned with a Christian nation, so to speak, when we think about America and
Yes.
other Western nations? Are we going to heed the lesson? So God's giving us a message. He's talking to his people. The Jewish people are the conduit for how he communicates to us through the word. Are we going to finally heed it and finish the job? And that's some of the debates that are going on right now just in our own Congress. There was no justification, there's no objective, there's no strategy. And I think, well, there is all those things. And on the news in America, we are just seeing sort of the mainstream flyover level of this new war, right? That's
Right.
just started. The war in Gaza is over, so to speak, and it's not. It's one continuing story, and at some point, God's people have to rise up and say, we have to do what God said, which is finish it, right?
Absolutely. We look at Iran, and we've talked about this for a long time, that Iran really has been behind all the evil, all the terrorism that exists in the world, and certainly what we've seen here in Israel. They're the headquarters. Okay, they're the ones who basically give the marching orders for Hamas to do what they did on October 7th. They're the ones who tell Hezbollah what to do. They're guiding the Houthis. That's what's going on. And so it only makes sense to go after, in a sense, the head of the snake. Okay, and you got to decapitate that. Otherwise, it's just going to be there, and it's going to continue, and it's going to continue to have, enjoy economic prosperity. It's going to continue to enjoy military success, and that has to be stopped in order so that, in a sense, we can't allow ourselves to be murdered. We can't allow ourselves to be persecuted. That is not the idea. Whether we finish the job or not is a good question. I can't answer that, but I do know that we need to respond. We can't let it continue. We saw the unbelievable horrors of October 7th, 2023, and from our, we're talking about taking it down to to our level, to the field level. Our organization, LifeShield, that has been around since 2006, we've been building relationships and have very strong relationships with all the security chiefs and all the local leadership throughout Israel, especially in the Gaza Belt area, in the south of Israel, and in northern Israel, in the Galilee, and those communities and those regions closer to Lebanon and Syria. And I would not be exaggerating if I told you that, I have a personal phone call with security chiefs on a daily basis. We're getting constant reports of what's going on, both in terms of what their needs are, and literally sitting at the table with them and the leadership as they strategize on how to keep their constituents, how to keep the people in their regions safe and secure. So on October the 7th, when Hamas and their willing accomplices, ordinary Gazan citizens, poured into Israel over the Gaza border and committed crimes, Amy, we don't have words, English language, or for that matter, any language, that can describe the atrocities that they committed. We literally need to invent new words, because the words that we have can't describe what they did. But that is something that, as horrible as it was not new. Okay, it's an old hatred, and that was all commanded by Iran. Okay, and their octopus kind of like connections throughout the world. We wound up on that very same day, on October 7th, 2023, contacting our security chief partners around the South. And by the way, I have a number of, every now and then I look back on my WhatsApp and my SMS messaging, and I see my dear friends who did not respond, right? Did not reply. I lost 12 friends on that day. 9 of them were security officers. One of them was a special ed school teacher who dealt with post-traumatic children in special education. She was murdered along with her family. A friend of mine who was a chocolatier, he made handmade chocolates. I guess Hamas doesn't like chocolate. They murdered him. Another friend of mine who was head of a factory, who was recovering from back surgery and couldn't move from his house. He was disabled, and he was there with his daughter, and they murdered him. So 12 of my friends were murdered on that day. And we didn't have to start looking for who the contacts were. We already had everybody in our speed dial. We knew who everybody was, and we were able to immediately respond to what the needs were. So that's what we were able to do then. Fast forward to today, same thing. We're now under attack, even now, from Iran and also through Hezbollah. Northern Israel is again in flames. Northern Israel is being bombarded very heavily. Everyone thought that the war with Hezbollah was over, right? Just even 2 weeks ago, the president of Israel, said, okay, the war's over. It's all about rebuilding now. President Trump, God bless him, but back in October stood in the Knesset and said, the war's over. It's time to deal with other things. I never believed it was over. I went back to my security chiefs. They never believed it was over. As far as I was concerned, as long as we have enemies who on a daily basis tell us that they want to kill us and have the weapons to do it, the war is not over. And so we're always in a position to be ready, which is what we're at right now. But what we find right now are families who are really having a tough time. I'm in a bomb shelter right now, but many people can't access a bomb shelter. According to the comptroller report in Israel released a few weeks ago, 1/3 of Israel, about 2.5 million people, don't have access to either private or public bomb shelters. Okay, so they have to move in with family members. They've got to move in with strangers. They've got to find a public bomb shelter somewhere and get a mattress and just live in it. Okay, I'm in a situation right now where our office has this bomb shelter. I can come and go between here and my office. At home, we have a private bomb shelter, but our kids and their spouses have moved back home with us. So we've got a nice crowded house. My wife and I went from kind of almost empty nesters, well, almost, to a very packed house. Listen, you got to figure out whose turn it is in the kitchen. I'm running around, we're running around, putting toilet paper in all the bathrooms because of the number of people that we've got. You've got to coordinate shower times. You got to figure out how many people are going to be in the house at any given time because how many people are going to fit into the bomb shelter. You're not going too far from home. There's no schools right now. I was just talking with a colleague right now, a lawyer, and she was just telling me right now that her 9-year-old and 7-year-old are at home. They're bored, and let's face it, they're children, which means that they're acting out. They're dealing with their own stress. Her husband, okay, has just spent 200 days in Army reserves, and he's back in the Army, 200 days in a row, okay. He's back in the Army again. So she's a lawyer, but she's a single mom basically because her husband's in the Army. These are the things that are going on. My grandson, who's 3 years old, who's got he should be well and everything, but he's got some kind of stomach problem going on. So he's not well. My daughter is pregnant and due at any time. Okay. My son-in-law, her husband is a police officer, and he's being called in for emergency shifts. Okay, so she's got to manage. And again, these are all things that are happening at a level that you and I and our audience can understand as parents and as grandparents. Like how do you deal with the kids? How do you deal with Holocaust survivors who now have to spend their days and nights in a windowless, the light is the same light at 3 o'clock in the morning in this bomb shelter as it is now at 4 p.m. It's the same light. Holocaust survivors are dealing with that. People who went through October 7th and the sirens thinking, oh, maybe it's now over and I can rebuild my life again. We're getting reports from southern Israel that those people are now, right, they were going in that upward trajectory of recovery. Now the sirens are coming back, they're dropping. We have to catch them. We got to find ways of catching them. We have a wonderful network of social workers and psychologists who are out there who are responding to people who have PTSD and who are going through crises. And that's extremely important. We take that extremely seriously. We take mental health, we take PTSD extremely seriously in Israel. We call it the invisible wounded, and they need immediate care just like somebody who has a physical injury. And then there's the idea of just ordinary Israelis, people like myself. I'm not a social worker. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a human being that connects with another human being and does I don't know what you'd call it, maybe just being present, just being with somebody who you can tell is not doing well and being beside them and holding their hand, even a stranger, and saying to them, I'm not moving from this place. You can do whatever you want, or you can talk, you can cry, you can scream out, you can be silent. I'm not moving from your side. And that's just being present. And that is a part of Israeli culture, part of Israeli society, is understanding that we need to do that for each other. So it's a tremendous opportunity. It's not easy, but we need to see God's hand in this. And God is saying to us, be a Mordecai, be an Esther. How are you going to respond?
So in that spirit of response, I'm thinking about LifeShield and the work that you have done for 20 years now, correct? It's about 20 years old. And you saw the threat from, those indiscriminate sort of low-level rockets that Gaza was using all those years, and of course Hezbollah in the north, and then the reality of what capabilities Iran had came to light with their bigger missiles and the clusters and the stuff that's far more damaging and far more far-reaching. Your organization anticipated what the needs would be to keep Israeli families, individual citizens at the everyday level as safe as possible, with how you renovated or constructed or built these shelters that are equipped in such a way that, yes, there's no sunlight and there's a claustrophobic factor, but at the same time, there's some sense of regular life in terms of showers and bathrooms or Wi-Fi or what have you. Tell us a little bit about how those 20 years, your forethought, and your knowledge of what God's messaging is to the Israeli people and their struggles and how to respond, how that progressed over 20 years, what you've all built, and how today the Israeli citizens are benefiting from what LifeShield has provided.
Right. So it's very interesting because I'll start with present day, where people have said, oh, it's too bad that there needs to be shelters, right? And my response is, no, thank God we have bomb shelters so that people can live as normal a life as possible in an abnormal situation, right? We look at it in the other way around. God is really giving us the equipment to do what we need to do so that we can be okay, right? So I don't look at it as, oh, too bad you need bomb shelters. It's kind of like, no, thank God that we do have them. So go back to 2006 when we really as a grassroots or grass tops kind of gathering of friends started as a response to the Second Lebanon War, where we understood that if you and I are having a meeting or having a coffee and the siren goes off, because rockets are coming in, missiles are coming in. Now we have got drones coming in and ballistic rockets coming in. But back in 2006, as you said, they were much more rudimentary. We need to leave our cafe or our synagogue or wherever it is, and we need to go somewhere that's accessible, that we can get to, that's above ground, that's easy to get to, simple, not too fancy, doesn't really need all the stuff that, but go in, be safe, let the danger pass, and then do what? Get back to our coffee, get back to our Bible study, get back to our workplace, and again, go on with our lives. And that really became obvious for us. That was what was really needed. It was also something that the Home Front Command, of the IDF, told us that that's what was needed. That was missing in the land of Israel. So we were like, we're here, we'll do it. So we were the first, right? LifeShield was the first. Now there are other organizations that do include bomb shelters in their menu of programs, but our organization has been and continues to be the only organization, non-government organization, officially as it's called, that focuses completely on shelters and other security projects. And we understand that it's our mission. It's what we really feel. It's what God is asking us to do. It's really interesting that in Psalms, right? So in Psalms, there's a beautiful verse that says it says, do not fear the terror by night or the arrows that fly by day. Yeah, we're familiar with this beautiful word, right?
Yes.
Do not fear the terror by night or the arrows that fly by day. And I've often thought, Amy, what a strange verse. If you think about it, it's an imperative. Do not. Now, I understand an imperative that says, do not steal. Okay. I understand, do not break the Sabbath. Do not place a stone in front of in front of a blind person. We're familiar with those imperatives, but how do you command anybody not to fear? Very interesting. When we started LifeShield, the answer became obvious to us. When we place and deliver bomb shelters, what do? We take away the fear. And it became obvious to us that that imperative from 3,000 years ago from King David, we were actually able to enact it. We were actually able as an imperative. So we really considered this to be our marching orders. Our marching orders is to do what? Take away the fear. Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing, and it's amazing so that verse was your marching orders for the mission that you have to be the conduit for people to engage in that imperative, because it's hard to sometimes command your own emotions.
Right.
But at the same time, it talks about the terror by night and the arrows by day, and that's literally what's going on, right? You have these missiles, which are just modern day arrows, and they're coming from farther away than what someone can shoot with a bow over a wall, and the terror at night. It's just like you said, it's a living command in a ongoing situation that needs a response. I was thinking about when you're talking about how you then had this command to take away that fear, and that looks a little different in different parts of Israel, I would assume. You mentioned your office building has the shelter you're in now. Your home has a private shelter where your family goes, and anybody who happens to be at your house at the time a siren might go off. Then, of course, there's folks that live in high-rises or multi-level housing. What's the situation there? Can you just explain the diversity of how it works, and the practicality of what is even going on today? Someone lives on the fourth floor, they hear a siren, what?
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. There's different types of shelters, there's different types of ways, and as a result of those different types of shelters, or how to get to those different types of shelters, we have to act in different ways. We'll start with the building that I'm in right now. I'm in a very, very advanced bomb shelter. Just to give you an idea, I'm going to turn the camera so that the viewers can see this, but those who are listening will just have to imagine. I'm going to turn it very carefully, and what you're going to see is a filtration system.
Wow.
For those who can see this is called an ABC filtration system. ABC stands for atomic, biological, and chemical. And this filtration system, and I think it goes down to the drum down there, okay? Anyways, this advanced filtration system, I'll turn back to me, is actually, in the event that the weaponry coming from our enemies might include warheads that are either atomic, biological, or chemical. So I'm actually in a very sophisticated bomb shelter that can actually deal with all types of weapons. I would say that most shelters don't have this kind of sophistication, and so therefore you have to deal with what you've got. If you're in an apartment building and you've got the shelter is on a floor above or a floor below you, now you're going up and with your children, if you've got kids, and trying to get there back and forth and back and forth. And I got news for you: accidents can happen. One of our staff had a situation where they were carrying their two children, one age 3 and the other age 7 months, and in the process of going to the shelter, their 7-month-old sustained a head injury on their way to the shelter when the baby's head hit the floor, and had a concussion, was taken by ambulance to the hospital in Jerusalem, had a fractured skull. Thank God, the baby is fine. She was released the other day from the hospital. And she will be okay, but how frightening. And that's part of the running back and forth, okay, between your apartment and the bomb shelter. There are people who have just decided, I'm not going to risk that. I'm just going to live in the bomb shelter. They've got their mattresses in there. They've got food in there. Okay, but you've got to, at some point, you've got to leave and go out to the bathroom. If there isn't a bathroom, all of the shelters that we've renovated all have bathrooms and Wi-Fi and fresh drinking water and air conditioning for climate control, both for cooling and for heat, and special pumps to make sure that there's no moisture or water in the bomb shelter. So all of our shelters have that, but not all shelters in Israel do. If you've got a private shelter at home, then again, you've got to figure out, is it going to be overcrowded? Is it going to be who can be in there? These are real kind of survival issues. But we make it happen, and we make sure that once we're in there, so we make it as livable as possible. Our bomb shelter at home has a library of books. It has Bibles and prayer books. It has comic books. Okay, the bomb shelters in public areas. What you'll find in there is you'll find, people who really have to figure out how we're going to get along. There's impromptu arts and crafts corner going on for the kids, so that someone will say, "Hey, let's bring out the paints and the finger painting and the stickers and all that kind of stuff." In another corner, right, there are people praying. There are men wearing talit, right, the prayer shrouds, and the tefillin, the boxes. That's going on in another corner. In another corner, there may be a study group. In another corner, there may be someone brought their iPad or a laptop and they're watching a movie, right? And all this is going on. People are bringing food. People are bringing their dogs. I mean, it's like a little Noah's Ark going on, right? And people are trying to figure out how are we going to get along without getting on each other's nerves. But actually, let's turn this into an opportunity for community. In Tel Aviv, you've got a lot of single people, right? So you got a lot of single people who are spending time in these shelters. I got news for you. We're always hearing reports of romantic relationships that emerge from these bomb shelters, and if some of these relationships turn into marriages and children come from them, hey, we'll take some credit there, okay?
All things work together for good.
Yeah. And that's what's kind
Oh,
of happening. That's what's kind of happening in terms of those shelters that we've been involved with. LifeShield has been involved in placing above ground bomb shelters. We've been involved in renovating underground bomb shelters, of all different sizes. We have shelters that can house, 15 people. We have shelters that can house, 200 people. So we've got all things and everything in between, depending on what the residential situation is. Yeah.
so it's a beautiful thing. I mean, you mentioned the fact that there's a certain amount of stress and tension and even sort of interpersonal negotiations that go on with communing in and living for long periods of time in shelters. Sleep cycles are all screwed up, I'm sure. But at the same time, what I'm seeing on social media, and of course, people are only going to post the nice, fun things, at least from what I've seen, but you've got impromptu dancing. I saw a wedding taking place in a Tel Aviv shelter this morning. Um, there's a resilience that the Jewish people have, and it's a making lemonade out of lemons mentality that is not often seen in any other culture. Um, and I think it's a beautiful thing. Can you explain from your perspective? You're a godly man. Your faith is part of who you are as a person, as a member of the Jewish family. How has, and I've seen reports about this, but I'd love to hear your take on it. How has the notion of the repeated notion in the Tanakh that God has for his people, the Jewish people, to return to me, how has that manifested?
It, we have a siren going on right now. One second, but we'll stay with it. We have an alert that in our area, in the area that
Okay.
I'm in right now, that we need to be in a shelter. So I'm already in a bomb shelter, so we can continue. There might be interruptions in our transmission as There's an overriding
Our connection.
news alerts and news flashes and alarms that will literally
Yep.
overtake our connection. So if that happens, bear with me. We may see in the next few minutes as the siren goes off that we may be joined by other office people, but that's fine.
I'll brush their
I've
hair.
already actually announced to my colleagues that we will be having this interview, so they know that they'll be coming into an interview. But just to let your audience know that this is happening in real. This is our fourth siren today, just today. And so this is what's going on. But to answer your question, you know, the resilience of the Jewish people is definitely connected to our mission. It's a sense that we must continue. We must. We have a role to play in history. We have a role to play in our own identity. We have a history that is, like you and I have discussed, is really more about a memory. Where we spent the last 2,000 years in exile, we've gone from country to country, being kicked out, being chased out, being burned out. And now here we are in the last, since 1948, with our own state, with our own nation, with our own country.
Exactly.
And we're not letting that go. We understand that being in the state of Israel is a fulfillment of God's plan. Okay? As a matter of fact, we even talk about this as when we talk about the prayer for the state of Israel. We say, Yehi ratzon milfanecha, may it be your will, O God. Rock and Redeemer of Israel. That we say that the state of Israel is, we say, Reshit Smicha Gulatenu in Hebrew, which means, just translates, means that the state of Israel is the beginning, when the leaves or the stems of the flowers push through the snow in the springtime, that little bit that you first see, that tiny little sapling, that the nation of Israel, that the state of Israel is the sapling of what? Reshit Smicha Gulatenu is the sapling of the redemption. Redemption is now on its way. It's here, and it's being fulfilled through the state of Israel. So we are not leaving that. How do you walk back away from redemption? How do you walk back away of the unfolding of the mission, right? Of the nation of Israel. We're not going back into exile. We're not going back to Auschwitz. Okay? We're not going back to the Inquisition. Okay? We're not going back to any of that stuff. Okay? So we have to be resilient. We call this Project Israel. What are we doing here? Okay? And we have to see the hand of God in everything that we're doing. Okay? Nothing is by coincidence. Nothing is by chance. We're not like any other nation. Sorry, we're not. Okay? And I often tell my friends in the United States, and I'm from Canada, so I tell my friends in Canada, I tell my friends in the United States, go find the name America in the Bible. Go find the name Canada in the Bible. Not there. So therefore, the question is, if you're in the United States, or you're in Canada, or you're in England, or you're wherever you are, sorry, the alert's, second, okay. Another news flash, it says critical. Critical in the next few minutes, alerts are expected in your area. You'll need to find a better location. Here we are, sirens on. We have incoming ballistic missiles in our area right now. We're going to be expecting probably, if there's anybody in our office building still, they'll be joining us, but we now have incoming. Yes. I'm actually going to just shut the bomb shelter door because that's protocol. 1 second, if you can still hear me. It's required to actually have the door sealed. 1 second. Here we go.
If someone is still making their way to your shelter, can they open it?
All right. They can get in. Oh, yeah, of course. They can get in. Absolutely. It's definitely not locked. This is it's an interesting point, actually. Mm-hmm. You're literally watching a response to the question after October the 7th, should we have the doors locked from the inside? So that intruders can't get in. And that you now have answered the question as to why we do not. lock the doors, because if we were, every millisecond counts. I don't know if you can hear that. Okay, so the sirens are now taking place outside. And I would not be surprised if we heard explosions literally outside of this shelter, because it's literally happening right here where we are.
Yeah, I thought that was the
We are
explosion. It was the
having
door.
inbound ballistic missiles literally. Come on in. Come on in. Hi. No, that was my colleague. כאילו ממש, כן? עם כל הכוח. עוד אחד. We have more people coming in. Come on in. Hi. I'm on an interview. Ken? So I'm here with some colleagues now. But that's what we're doing. This is now the fourth, as I say, the fourth alarm for today. But we've got everyone's come in with their laptops. People got their cell phones. They're going to continue working. Sorry, I hope I don't interrupt. I've been told it's okay. We can continue anyway. So that's where we're at. But as I say, we're here. We're resilient. We're here. Not more people coming in. There we are. Jerry.
Yeah. Everybody's welcome to say hey.
Good friends here. I'm on an interview here. You want to join in?
So let me introduce you. This is Jerry Hyman.
Hi, Jerry. I'm Amy Zawi.
How are you?
How are you? I'm good. You're the one in a bomb shelter. We're off and on. We're a Christian organization. We love Lifeshield, and we're just doing an interview right now that I'll release this afternoon because the Christians that are part of our network really want to connect with what's going on and learn the reality of what you all are facing.
So Jerry's a neighbor and a friend, and he's got a fitness center. It's part of our office complex here.
Oh, wow.
Dear friend, and he really understands. This is a man who builds bridges between the Jewish community and our Christian friends. Him and his wife are known for hosting in their home Shabbat and different festivals and things like that. So, yeah, what's going on? How are you guys doing?
How are we doing?
Well, what's
we're doing fine. It's our normalcy.
Yeah, your new normal, unfortunately.
The problem is getting complacent with the normalcy, because it's a new normal, and it could be dangerous because you can forget that it's serious.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, you get complacent almost, and then if and when this passes, you have to get back to the regular normal, right? So there's an adjustment.
I don't know if there's a regular normal now. I think everything's flipped. The switch flipped at COVID, and then everything else sort of followed it. The whole world flipped, and then now we have our own issues over here.
Right. We were talking before about the fact that it's Purim, the fact that everything kind of kicked in on Shabbat, Zachor and everything, and how it kind of all of history, right? The Bible and everything, it's all happening here and now.
It's true. I mean, if you look at the story of Purim, you see that Haman, which is basically Khamenei, it's the same people. Haman had the ear of the king. He had everything he wanted: wealth, fame. Couldn't ask for anything more. And what happened? Mordecai, sitting in his torn clothes at the gate, was too much for him. His hate was so overbearing that it blinded his ability to live. He had to destroy the Jews.
Huh? No.
I think it was doing just
He's kicking the table. So it's just history repeating itself, basically, in a lot of ways. I mean, the belief is that Haman is from Amalek.
Right.
So we're reliving this.
We're leaving it. So it's very interesting. I think that Amy, it's you and I were talking before about these similar themes, but as I mentioned, this is something I think we're all aware of. I don't think you can get away from the synchronicity of everything going on. So it's quite amazing. Yeah,
it is amazing. It is. So even the secular Jewish community, the secular Israelis are recognizing these biblical factors in who
Well,
they are.
I think one of the things that we've seen, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, that I think it goes back actually to October the 7th of 2023. There has been kind of like, for a Jew, it's about, we call it returning. A Jew returns, right? Because we understand that the Jewish identity is always inside, and so you may have drifted away from observance or prayer or whatever, but it's about coming back to your Jewish identity. And I think since October the 7th, 2023, there's been a very strong return.
I think that's only a piece of it. I think that we're actually rediscovering what our identity is, because we're not a religion or a people. And it's multi-layered. And because of that, and you're in diaspora for thousands of years, you've got the influence of the Mizrahi community on that side, and the Ashkenazi community on the other side. And what ends up happening is you lose your sense of self. We're rediscovering identity. We're rediscovering our power. And, And so that's happening, but it's happening on so many different levels, because what ended up happening on the 7th, the 7th of October was the takeaway for me was that we had a lot of martyrs who died sanctifying the name of God, right? But what the price that was paid, what the other side doesn't realize, is they just emboldened a generation of young Israelis to know who they were. It reminded of me when I was 9 and I watched the Munich athletes being murdered. And I knew who I was immediately. Well, these kids know who they are too, and guess what? They don't want any more of it. So you've got a different kid, and the culture's changing because we don't want it anymore.
Amazing. Really amazing. And Jerry, by the way, works a lot with soldiers and young adults who are on their way into the Army, again, getting them prepared both physically and emotionally for the IDF. So does great work.
Yeah. I always appreciate the Israelis' commitment to total wellness for their people, for their soldiers, for their workforce, or for their innovativeness. It's a matter of accomplishing a task and ensuring that there's an emotional, psychological wellness or pathway to return to that wellness or work through it. So it's a beautiful thing the rest of the world can learn from, quite honestly. Shmuel, we have so appreciated this conversation. What incredible sort of history unfolded right before our eyes as your bomb shelter filled up. We are going to continue to pray not only for Israel, its leadership, its military, and its people, but we want to share the LifeShield website. It's lifeshieldshelters.org. Encourage everybody to follow you on Facebook. I'll post that. And participate. Not only pray, but participate. Sharing about LifeShield so other people can participate, and offering donations or resources. Visit the website, learn what you can do, and make that effort so that we can participate in the peace of Jerusalem and comforting the Jewish people in Israel during this very difficult time.
Amazing. Absolutely. Please come on over to lifeshieldShelters.org. Again, follow our Facebook page through, and just really appreciate this opportunity to talk with you today, and wish you well.
Wish you well. Shalom, and we'll stay in touch. I'll check in on your well-being because we're going to want to know how you are. I'll WhatsApp you.
Okay. All right. Shalom.
Shalom. If you enjoy these conversations, please visit us at www.thejerusalemconnection.us. Find all our podcasts on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast program. Follow us on social media. Subscribe, like, and share our content to reach the broadest audience.